Good afternoon, everyone. 4 o'clock straight up, a Thursday edition of On Cue. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones. We are powered by our good friends over at Three Brooks Bourbon. Get ready with tea and, of course, fresh roasted coffee on this, the 30th of October, 2025. Hope you guys have and had a good Sports Tuesday and Wednesday. Obviously, a lot of hoops over the last several days for myself, but good to be back in the saddle. I want to remind everyone, too, Lloyd Vance and I dropped a new edition of Back Your Play that's on the YouTube channel. You'll be able to catch that Saturday and Sunday. Again, that'll be 11 to 12 on NY48 WWON. As I encourage you guys to get social with me, very easy to do at Rich Q on X and IG. TikTok Rich Q on the mic. So it's a thought out Thursday. We got past our Woosah Wednesday. I can't believe we are on the mist of Halloween, which is manana, which means that the New York Football Giants are officially eliminated from playoff contention. I think we already knew that, but a lot of NFL talk today. We'll dip in with the NBA. Another name is dropped. I told you guys this. Guys are going to start talking. They're going to start yapping. They're going to start rolling over, and names are going to get dropped. And we got a new name to add into this little memoir, if you are, by the name of Tyronn Lue, which we will get into. And I want to get into some baseball with the World Series. I thought the Dodgers were going to end this sucker in 5, and that's not the case right now. Toronto 1 win away from winning the World Series. It's been a compelling series, has it not? I mean, it really has. Monday's game, that 18-game marathon, and then the Dodgers win it 6-5. Freddie Freeman, what else is new with the big blast? Because that's all he does. I mean, he's just as clutch as they come in the postseason, Hall of Fame player. And then you get the Jays coming back and going on the road, winning it 6-2, and it sets the stage now for, and then I'm sorry, coming back 6-1. Pardon me. Now it sets the stage for Toronto with an opportunity for the knockout punch, up 3-2 at home to close out the series. I would love to see a game 7. I think it would be absolutely marvelous. But a couple things that I've taken away from this World Series, and I want to get into it with you guys a little bit. I've seen enough already. Like, to me, Shohei Ohtani, he's the best player I've ever seen. I mean, just forget about generational talent. He's the best player I've ever seen. I want to get into that a little bit today as well. As I mentioned, NBA, the fallout, week 9, the NFL, it's right here. Week 9, the NFL, it is upon us. And certainly want to get your thoughts on these games going forward. It starts this evening, Thursday Night Football, and then we'll cap it off Sunday and Monday night. You got the Ravens and the Dolphins tonight. Ravens are laying 7.5. So this is kind of where I'm at. And it's something that Lloyd and I discussed earlier today on Back Your Play. We're now at the point in the NFL season where it's certainly Separation Sunday. You're starting to see now these teams show us who they really are. And I think there are certain teams in the NFL that have an opportunity to turn around their seasons. It's not too late for some teams. One of those teams is the Baltimore Ravens. Granted, they've dealt with the injuries to some of their offense. Obviously, their defense, you lose a guy like Lamar Jackson, your franchise quarterback. If this team figures out a way to get back to 500, and they have a very favorable schedule, that's a hell of a coaching job by Harbaugh. It really is. I just need to see some defense from the Baltimore Ravens. I think they have a chance to turn around their season at the expense of the Miami Dolphins. Cincinnati, they blew a golden opportunity last weekend, losing to the Jets 39-38. I think it's too little too late for the Vikings, dealing with the Carson Wentz injury. They're 3-4. They got a tough game coming up against the Lions. Obviously, we know some of these teams that are on the bye, but I believe that it's show me time right now. Colts on the road to the Steelers. That should be a very good game. Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills. And that's a game we're going to talk a lot about tomorrow on Friday's show. So we'll start to get into the NFL a little more. We'll start to look into these lines as well. And I also, as I mentioned, I want to get into another name drop in the NBA. Another name has come out. We've learned that the scandal that has basically rocked the league is starting to kind of cut deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And here we go, right? We already talked about the Chauncey Billups, the involvement in the rigged poker game. Now we have a new name, according to multiple sources. Tyronn Lue, Ty Lue, attended allegedly rigged Vegas poker games, of which Chauncey Billups played. So we're going to get into that second half of the show. You guys always get social with me at Rich Quinones Q. I want to hear from you guys. Get the comments open early and often on this thought out Thursday. The ghost of Luca Brasi, the Bunker Boys, chime in. Are you dressing up for Halloween tomorrow? Yeah, I'm going to be a sports talk show host. That's what I got to do. I'm going to dress up. What's the bunker going to dress up as? Guys that basically hide in the bunker, right? New phone, who this, a.k.a. Heisman, a.k.a. He 12 Man, a.k.a. Vince, chimes in. We got to talk Browns, Q. Reports say Eagles are willing to give 3 first-round picks for Garrett, and they won't trade them. What the F are they doing over there? Those are reports. Now, the Eagles know. The Eagles made a little bit of a move yesterday. They had to shore up that secondary. That's a secondary I told you had major issues. We're talking about from a depth standpoint. From a depth standpoint, the Philadelphia Eagles had to do something. They had to shore up that secondary a little bit. Look, you've got some mainstays back there, but we also know it was very easy to exploit these guys. One of the moves they made, they trade for John Mechie to the Jets for Michael Carter. And if you kind of look at it on face value, they acquired Bennett from the Raiders in August. He's been sidelined for the majority of the season because of the pec injury. If you look at their corners, Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, they are supposed to be their young corners, right, ascending. But again, they've kind of struggled when you talk about that third contribution. Where's it coming? Is it going to be Adoree Jackson? No. Ringo? No. They stink. Mixed results. Now, you always want to try to go out and do what? You want to add to your run defense and your pass defense. And, you know, the fact that there's rumors coming out right now that the Philadelphia Eagles are hot on Myles Garrett. I'm sorry. I think there's zero shot that the Browns trade Myles Garrett. And I understand what you're saying, Vince. They're 2-6. They've shown little reason to kind of think something's going to change over the final 9 games. Garrett, remember, signed that contract. I mean, see, no one ever talks about that. Remember during the offseason, okay, do you want to sign? Do you want to be with a winner? So now trading Garrett triggers a dead cap charge of like $68 million. You're not going to do that. Also, you're on the hook. You're still on the hook for Deshaun Watson's fully guaranteed $46 million that you shelved out. So you got 46, I'm sorry, all of it, but you're on the shelf for 46 in 2026. So you can't even start to talk about trade when we haven't even discussed the financial ramifications. He's not going to get traded. You're going to have to figure out other ways to kind of stockpile assets. And we know this is exactly what the Philadelphia Eagles do. This is what Howie does. You know, there were some reports that New England offered pretty much peanuts for A.J. Brown. The Eagles are going to be aggressive no matter what, because this is what Howie Roseman does. If I'm 31 other teams in the NFL, I got news for you. When Howie Roseman calls, I don't pick up the phone. I don't do it. I don't pick up the phone because I know I'm going to get fleeced. I know for a fact there are certain teams that are going to trade off. You know, there's thoughts that the Jets are going to get rid of Breece Hall. The Giants can't do anything with Slayton, but I'm hearing Jalen Hylett, you know, looking for a fresh start. The kid has done nothing. He's done nothing. I mean, 3 seasons, he started 10 games for the Giants. You would think when Neighbors goes down, here's an opportunity for this kid to step up. You're not going to get any value for him. Miami's going to start selling off. You know, Denver's looking to upgrade as well. The Raiders might sell off. No one knows what Minnesota's going to do. Every team's looking to figure out strengths, weaknesses. And every team also understands with the trade deadline right around the corner, Tuesday, November 4th, the question really is, am I going to be a buyer or am I going to be a seller? And if you're a bad team, chances are you are going to sell off and try to get some assets. With the caveat, you're not screwing yourself financially and you're taking on a lot of money in contracts. And I think that's kind of where you're at with the Browns. I mean, look, Garrett is a great player. He's an all-time great. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a great defensive player. And listen, are you giving up? If you're the Philadelphia Eagles, are you giving up 3 first-round draft picks for Myles Garrett at this stage of his career? If you are you going to have that what the Rams did? They sold their soul to get a Super Bowl. Well, the Eagles already won it. They want to get back and try to repeat and defend. So if you're talking about a blockbuster trade right now, and I know Charles Robinson, I've had him on the air for years. I know he mentioned this for Yahoo Sports, right? They're hot, they're hot, they're hot. And if you're super hot, what are you giving up? 3 first-round picks? If you're the Eagles, would you do that? And if you're Cleveland, you have to have the Eagles really convince you to part ways with Garrett. And I don't believe they have to hang their hat on something defensively because they haven't been that bad defensively. Their defense has kept them in games. They just have issues with their roster, the way it's constructed on the offensive side of the ball. And they don't have a quarterback. And we don't know what's going to happen with the GM and the head coach. I don't believe you're going to trade your cornerstone piece, your defensive cornerstone piece. You're talking about a 2023 Defensive Player of the Year, right? And it's unfortunate they're 2-6. They were 3-14 last year. And he's expressed his frustrations, but he also signed that contract. So you had a chance to not take the money. You took the money. I mean, that's kind of the short end of it for me, right? I think you should go as a Chief because you cooked people too early. Well, we'll see. I will say the Chiefs are not cooked. They are back if they beat the Bills. That would be 3 late first round. It's still first round draft picks, man. Period. Right? Either they do analytics or they don't. I'm confused with the new analytics actually help a football team. How analytics actually help a football team. I can see it in basketball and baseball, but in football, it's tendencies and film study, period. Analytics are analytics. You take it on face value. Cleveland has 2 first-round picks next year. You had another for the next 2 years via Jacksonville and the Eagles. Team is trash, needs help, picks help with trades, and get top picks. But again, you have to look at the financial constraints, right? So there's I don't know if it's buzz. I asked Lloyd this earlier today on BYP. They're not trading AJ Brown, the Philadelphia Eagles. They're not. They're just not. If you think this team's better off without AJ Brown, you're sadly mistaken. And I get it. They didn't have him against the Giants. Smith had big plays. Goddard had big plays. Obviously, they rushed for 275. Saquon went off. But at the end of the day, I don't believe they're really – you can shop a player, but I honestly do not believe when it's all said and done the Philadelphia Eagles trade A.J. Brown. I just don't. Now, if you want to have the conversation, should they? I mean, does it feel like they're effectively shopping him around, but not officially shopping him around, if that makes sense? Because nobody knows what's going on with this cat. Nobody knows. But we've talked so much about AJ and his cryptic tweets and his comments, and he's not happy and he's frustrated. Well, I got news for you. You know, Saquon Barkley wasn't getting a lot of touches and he was getting bottled up, but he's still going out there. And I think the Eagles need A.J. Brown. Offensively, don't tell me they're better off without A.J. Brown. They're not. Now, do you want to deal with the headache? I don't believe they're going to trade him. I just don't. I think if you are a team, if a team's that interested in making a move for A.J. Brown, that's a team you're probably going to have to, if you're the Eagles, go through to win a Super Bowl. Is that Buffalo? Is that Kansas City? Is that New England? I mean, do you see them as right now legit Super Bowl contenders? Now, if Cleveland decides, you know, we're going to eat this money and get back assets, as Vince pointed out, then we're going to give up Garrett. Well, defensively now, the Eagles just, again, you add such another dynamic to that defense. You know, you're talking about a Hall of Fame pass rusher. Now you're coming out of the NFC. I mean, that they have so much depth. But I just don't know if you're willing, how much are you willing to give up? Same with the A.J. Brown, right? I mean, it's just like I said, you need him on the field because his presence makes opposing defenses pay attention to him. I mean, that's just it. You got Brown, you got Smith, you got an offense that isn't overly pass happy. It opens up a lot for the ground game. He's not going anywhere. As far as Garrett, the Eagles are always in the conversation when it comes to being aggressive. You guys know that as much as I do. I just don't believe Cleveland parts ways with him. I just don't. I really don't. It's LUE, but okay. Winner get taken as alleged games. We can talk a little bit about that. Second half. Ooh, Josh Jobs. Let me take a couple comments on the other side as well. 40 million, they can rip up the contract, write a new. If Miles and the next team agree to terms, they can rip up the contract, trade him, and he signs a new 1-year deal with whoever team. Yeah, I just don't see it. I don't. It's my opinion. It's just my thought. I understand where you're coming from. If you're Cleveland, you're like, what are you doing? You can acquire a boatload of assets. You can maybe go out and get that quarterback that you want, that you coveted, right? Is it a mistake if you trade Myles Garrett? I mean, they're 2-6. If they won a couple games, he's not getting traded because Pittsburgh's 4-3. Cincinnati can't get out of their own way, and Baltimore's got a hole to dig out of. I don't see it. I think there are teams out there that are going to make moves. Buffalo, listen, can you imagine how Buffalo needs a wide receiver? Detroit just signed that monster contract, Hutchinson. They need edge. They need a cornerback. Corner, not quarter, corner. The Colts, they're right there in the playoff hunt. They need to fix their secondary. There are teams we're talking about. Kansas City. I mean, right now, the Kansas City Chiefs, who I deemed cooked, they have their proverbial championship window at this moment. At this moment. And now you think about their ground game starting to, come alive a little bit with Pacheco. That happens when you get Rice back. It's starting to open up the offense. They're not getting younger. Patrick Mahomes is not getting younger. Who's to say Kansas City doesn't turn around and give Cleveland a call for Myles Garrett? So I think the offense is starting to come about because you got Worthy coming back and Rice. And that leaves what? To focus on what side of the football? The defensive side of the football. And that's the D-line. The Rams, they might be buyers. They need secondary help as well. The Philadelphia Eagles, clear cut. They made their move at cornerback on Wednesday, right? So they shipped Mitchie. See you later. They bring back Carter, who's a nice player, serviceable player. But we know that they're looking to add depth on both sides of football because that's what they do. That's what they do. They might also look at depth on the offensive line. But man, imagine having a guy like Garrett start to wreak havoc. 3rd and long. I mean, unbelievable. Baltimore's in need for another edge rusher and linebacker. Every team's trying to shore up defense come the trade deadline. It's just, what are they willing to give up? What are they willing to part with? With the Cowboys the Cowboys, Jerry basically, it sounded like he conceded the season, to be quite honest with you. It literally sounded like Jerry Jones conceded the season. He basically concedes. We're not going anywhere. I mean, their defense stinks. The past 3, 4, 5 years, their defense has been a sieve. They can't stop anyone. And they can score points. And you're basically wasting Dak Prescott's prime right now if you're the Dallas Cowboys. But I don't know. Do you make a move just to make a move because you're the Dallas Cowboys? Cleveland right now has so many players you can sit there and say they're going to trade. They got the guard Jenkins. They got the tight end, right? Ford, the running back. You got Judy, who's, again, his name's been out there. The Garrett thing, to me, I don't see it, or anyone that they deem a promising rookie. I just don't. I mean, I'd be surprised if they traded Ward, to be quite honest with you. I would. Dallas, Williams has had a nice season, right? Kenny Clark, they just got him over in the Packers trade from Micah Parsons. Their defense is bad. I mean, 3-4-1. You got a stretch of games against the Eagles, Chiefs, and the Lions later in the season. If they have any aspirations of being a wild card, yeah, you got to fix that defense. But I just don't know, man. I don't know. Because think about this. The Cowboys trade Parsons, they get a bag of draft picks that Jerry Jones was alluded to. Why are you going to turn around and give those right back up? I don't see it. I don't. And look, are those picks going to make a difference right now? No, they're not. I mean, their best player is their kicker, and obviously Prescott's having a great season, but they're not going to. I don't think they're trading their kicker. Teams aren't going to give you a premium pick for a kicker, as Omar wants to know. I think Williams is on a 1-year deal and he's having a career year. Yeah, teams are going to call everyone up to see what's available. What's available? The Giants, there's thoughts, what do you do with Dexter Lawrence? Carl Banks ripped him on the podcast. Dexter Lawrence shot back. Dexter Lawrence hasn't been the game wrecker. Slayton, that was a mistake to bring him back for that money and contract. He's been a no-show. You got Thibodeau, but you drafted him top 10 a couple of years ago. I don't believe trade him. If Scatterboo was healthy and if a team looks for a running back depth, maybe you get rid of Singletary. Tracy's younger. They don't have a lot of candidates. Some of these teams just don't have candidates. They don't have the players that anyone covets. Myles Garrett is coveted, no doubt. 100%, no doubt. But I just don't think the Cleveland Browns part ways with him. I don't. Eagles standpoint, Myles has at least 4 to 5 good years, and with the line he makes them a real problem. Oh, yeah. I mean, you can even if he's situational third down pass rusher late in his career. Yeah. Still wreak havoc. Eagles would make that trade in a minute. Again, you have to have a willing dance partner. Ooh, I like this. New little hashtag right here. Mike N. Michael, Broncos country. Let's ride. How about that? A little bit of the corporation showing up today. I get it. Chiefs and Worthy and 2. First for Garrett. Given Sanders, Bond, and Worthy as wide receivers, you can throw it deep. And then found it underneath. Junkins in the backfield would be a decent young offense to go around. Listen, their offense is starting to click. I can tell you that right now. They're going to be tested against Buffalo. They really are. That's why I think this weekend you start to see the separation from some of these teams. But teams like the Eagles, right now, I would say their biggest threat coming out of the NFC. I'm not going to discount the Packers. I'm just not. I think the Packers are a legitimate threat. I think the Lions are a legitimate threat to the Philadelphia Eagles. I think the Rams are a legitimate threat. I would say the Packers and the Rams, I believe, can go into Philly in January because they're made for that and beat the Eagles. Now, the Rams gave them their most competitive game in the snow last year in the playoffs in the divisional round. And then they, obviously Stafford played well in the snow. Saquon went off. They just couldn't punch it in late. And then the Eagles just ran all over Washington, who's got their own problems. They might not even make the playoffs. And I had them coming out of the NFC. But those are the teams that I believe right now. And I'm going to give you another team. And I mentioned this to Lloyd. No one's talking about them. Seattle. The Seahawks get to the quarterback. They play very good run defense. They have good special teams. They tackle, and offensively, they do all the things that you want in an offense. They can run the football. Obviously, they can throw the football. I mean, they're averaging right around 3.8. I like to see those numbers come up, but Walker is a workman-like back. And then obviously Darnold's having just a fantastic start midway through the season. with 12 touchdown passes and 4 picks, and the offensive line keeps them upright. Like, I would not sleep on Seattle. If you're telling me right now, give me the teams that can go in Philly in January and give the Eagles a run for their money, with the guys, the premise that the Eagles are going to get the number 1 seed, I would say Seattle. I would say Green Bay. I would say the Rams. I just don't see it from the Lions because the Lions are just so comfortable indoors. Now, obviously, it was a different story with Washington last year where the Lions got blown out. But point is, all those teams are looking around saying, oh, how do we match up? How do we match up with these teams? Do we match up with them? The teams that typically will make the deep runs are the teams that win the battle in the trenches. They own the battle in the trenches. And you're starting to see right now, Kansas City winning the war, the battle in the trenches. They're getting that offensive line. They're getting that ground game going. The Eagles are starting to get that ground game. We talked about identity of some of these teams. We didn't know what the identity of the Philadelphia Eagles is. We saw it against the Giants. They will run the football first and foremost, open it up, and then boom, play action and let Hurts do what he does best. And that's throw the football. And you have weapons to do that. Little different story in the AFC. If Kansas City beats Buffalo, then I'll sit there and say the Chiefs are back. The Colts, everyone's waiting for the other shoe to drop with the Indianapolis Colts. And quite frankly, I don't think it is. I mean, I had this conversation with Lloyd today on Back Your Play. The Colts have 2 players that you can make a strong case for as NFL MVP. Running back Jonathan Taylor, quarterback Daniel Jones. And the offensive line is not only run blocking, pass protecting, but they're doing a great job as a unit as a whole. And this team scores a lot of points. I would not want to go on the road and have to play them in the playoffs. Their win total was 7.5. They're going to surpass that and then some. I mean, you got 2 players right now playing at such a high level. Taylor is probably not going to get the yardage that Henry and Saquon did last year, but he's on pace for 26, 27 touchdowns. He's having a phenomenal season. Now, knock on wood, God forbid, that offense goes because he's opened everything up for Daniel Jones. But Jones has played really, really well. We're going to talk a little more about this tomorrow, but when you get into the MVP conversation in the NFL, I just think it's so wide open this season. And I'm not even talking about the odds because the odds have Patrick Mahomes, the shortest odds. And you can look at guys like Taylor, Jones, Stafford, Baker Mayfield, hell, Jalen Hurts. This year, there hasn't really been a quarterback in the NFL through 8, 9, soon to be 10 weeks that has really separated himself like we've seen in years past. It's a fact. It really is. Your Commanders don't want any of that Seattle smoke on Sunday night. They're in trouble. Washington is in trouble, man. I mean, you just can't afford to get banged up and lose your quarterback like that. And you're right. I think Seattle smokes them. And I think you might put a fork in Washington after that. I mean, the Eagles are going to win the NFC East. So the talk of, we haven't had a repeat champion in the NFC East since, Christ, that conversation ends. They're running away with the NFC East. Running away with it. Just a down year for Washington. You can't lose your quarterback. They've been inconsistent. They haven't had the type of juju like we've seen last year. I mean, the Bears game, they should have won that game. And the Cowboys game, they just got dominated. And then you come back, and Monday night, that's a 7-7 game. And Patrick Mahomes has a couple early picks. He settles and he throws for 303 touchdowns. Now, that's a tough spot to play in. You go from Dallas on the road to Kansas City, now at home against Seattle, the Lions. I just think it's a numbers game right now with Washington. And they're going to be on the outside looking in. I think by Monday, we're going to say that. I don't see how you beat Seattle. I don't see how you beat Detroit. Miami's a winnable game, but then you have the Denver Broncos. That's a tough game. The Vikings and the Giants, winnable games. The Cowboys, winnable games, but then you have the Eagles twice. You got to get to 9 wins somehow. And right now they're 3-5. So that's 8. You got 9 games left. You got to go 5-4. You got to go 6-3 over your last 9. I'm not seeing it. I'm really not. So I think my one prediction with Washington might be done. Colts success relies almost completely on Indiana Jones continuing to play turnover-free football. That's the key with JT pounding the run. They shorten the game and make teams pass or press, pardon me. Yes. So Jones has done a really good job of not turning the football over. Again, we were talking stats today. He's on pace to throw for well over 4,000 yards, which when you put it in perspective, if you follow Daniel Jones's career like I have, Daniel Jones, his best year, you can make a case was his rookie year. The year that the Giants made the playoffs and overachieved and won a road game in Minnesota. Yeah, it was Saquon, but Daniel Jones's legs did the most damage. He had a phenomenal season with the Giants. He had 7 rushing touchdowns. He had, 15, 15 passing touchdowns. He accounted for 22, 23 total touchdowns, didn't turn the football over. But he was sacked so many times, even after that, when he signed the contract and got hurt. The offensive line for Indianapolis, they might be your league MVP. I mean, Daniel Jones has only been sacked 9 times. 9 times in 9 games. In 10 games last year for the Giants, he was sacked 28 times. So to Vince's point, Taylor, he's kind of like the engine. And Daniel Jones is just kind of safely driving the car. And I don't like the expression managing the game, but he hasn't had the game where you're like, oh my goodness, that's the Daniel Jones I know, right? That's the Daniel Jones I know, where he has really bad interceptions. He just hasn't. He's played smart football. And the way they open up that offense, they have hitches, they have wheel routes, they get guys in the seam. Daniel Jones throws a pretty ball. It's just unfortunate it never really came to fruition in his time in New York. I think coaching played a part of it. I think shoddy draft picks and a bad offensive line played a part of it. They could not pass protect. He started to get hit and see ghosts, and it just didn't work out. Definitely comeback player of the year, and you stick him in the MVP conversation, of course, with Taylor. But I don't see a quarterback, whether it's Stafford, Prescott, Herbert, Mahomes, Goff, Hurts. I don't really see a quarterback this year where we're like, oh my God, he is the best player right now in the NFL. He's the best player in the league. They're not separating themselves. They're just not. That's the type of season we're having in the NFL. All right, halfway through a Thursday edition of On Cue. Rich Quinones here. I want to remind everyone we are powered by our good friends over at Get Ready with Tea, 3 Brooks Bourbon, fresh roasted coffee, 20% off on your first purchase, BYP20. That is the promo code. Check the affiliate notes as well. A lot of comments coming in on Facebook and X. We'll get to them as well. Midway through, we can continue the NFL conversation. I do want to touch base a little bit on the NBA. Get your thoughts if you guys are watching the World Series as well. It's crazy how it's playing out. But we'll talk a little association on the other side. How about this? 76ers. How about this? The Philadelphia 76ers. 4-0 along with the baby Bulls. The Sixers put a ridiculous amount of points in the fourth quarter. I can't believe I'm about to say this. 4 games in, they're fun to watch. They're fun to watch. So a little NBA talk on the other side. You can get your NFL comments. Keep them rolling through. We'll take you up to 5 on this Thursday edition of On Cue. Keep it locked in right here. All right, welcome back on the Thursday edition of On Cue. Rich Quinones here. By the way, just to remind you guys, new edition of Back Your Play is out tomorrow. We are dropping a new episode of Overseas Dimes, where we basically take a look at what's going on basketball-wise overseas. We'll have a little fun. We got some good guests lined up in that regard. We've got some past episodes that are also on demand, so definitely check that out on the channel. Jaden Johnson's going to join us. He's playing in Malta, so we're going to circle back and catch up with him tomorrow. So that'll be fun. All right, I wanted to switch gears for a moment or two. NBA wise, so I mentioned Tyronn Lue. So I was thinking, and again, everything is purely at this moment. It's all about speculation, right? That's where we're at. It's all about speculation, right? And do we believe this person was there, this person was there, was this person there? Like, ultimately, more names are going to drop, more names are going to come out. But I do find it interesting that this story drops, as I mentioned, right after the NBA tips off. And we still haven't seen LeBron James, right? We're still waiting to see LeBron James. And you kind of tie it in with his former teammate and the information. Now, again, everyone might have their theory on certain things. Now, his rehab is moving in the right direction. Great. Okay. The Ty Lue is interesting because a lot of you guys thought, well, hold on a second. Did these guys just get caught up and they owed? Well, now you get Tyronn Lue, who, quote, was involved in the poker game. You're talking about, again, one of the biggest scandals in decades in sports betting, sports gambling, and the NBA, North American sports. Now, what makes this really interesting is when we kind of take a step back and we uncover the layers. Where are we at right now? Like, where are we at right now as it stands with Lue? Now, think about that question that I'm asking you. Think about that. Think about that. He is a current head coach in the NBA. He is currently the head coach of the Los Angeles Clippers. And apparently, according to this investigation by Pablo Torre, he was present at one of the allegedly rigged poker games. Now, again, guilt by association, innocent until proven guilty, blah, 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 blah. This federal investigation, this event has led to what? The arrest of Chauncey Billups. So now, ultimately, Adam Silver's got to come out again. He's got to come out again because now you flip another face card and here we go, in attendance. If he was in attendance, dollars to donuts, he played. And the funny thing is, now this is where I kind of do my, let's put it together. Do you remember after Chauncey Billups was arrested, who defended him publicly? Screamed at the mountaintop? It was Lue. And let me keep going. And the gambling guys will know this. Tyronn Lue loves to play a little poker. He's a poker enthusiast, and he spends a substantial amount of time in Vegas. And you guys know this, right? What is the high limit bar? It's like a hot spot for NBA guys to play poker, right? So now let's keep going. One of his boys, his regular companion, is who? Damon Jones, former NBA player, who was also implicated in the case, allegedly tipping off gamblers that LeBron James wouldn't play in a February game against Milwaukee back in 2023. I'm telling you, the more we just keep, peeling the layers of this onion, it stinks, it stinks, it stinks. Now, he hasn't been accused of anything. He hasn't. But it's always about the perception and the optics, and that raises the eyebrows. And I'm telling you, man, we had a scandal that started with players and coaches, and now what's starting to happen? It's starting to creep up a little bit, right? The coup de grace, the cream always rising to the top when we're talking about some of these top tier guys, top ranking guys in the NBA. I think this is going to be a mess that is still going to just uncover more and more and more. And where there's smoke, I am a firm believer that there's fire. And I think there's going to be some big time names that are going to be dropping more so than what we're already seeing. It's just, again, it's just me. It's just me. Guest man chimes in Q. Let's be honest. He's going to be the next NBA rep to be arrested for gambling. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. And again, everything is pure speculation, right? But it's just the optics are bad. The optics are just so bad. It really is. Even if you're in attendance, it does not matter. Even if you show up 1 April in 2019. And that happens to be the game that had the rigged shuffling machine. Now, he's the current coach of the Clippers. He was then an assistant. But it's just the optics of everything looks so bad. And I'm telling you, man, these NBA players, they gamble. They gamble. Even these former players, they spend a substantial amount of money that they've earned over the years gambling. You know, Barkley makes light of it. I think Barkley just signed a deal with Valley Forge. I think they're going to have a steakhouse. You know, he's getting involved in that. Well, it's another connection to casino. He makes no bones about it, about his gambling. I just think, like I said, there's so many layers to this. Sarge chimes in. Q, do you think any of that have anything to do with the load management? Is that all a crock? So am I connecting the two? So here's one for you. Somebody tweeted this at me the other day. James Harden the other night had 20 points at the half. His scoring prop was set at 20 and a half. He didn't score a point the rest of the game. So now, you know, the theory is, he might be doing something. Now, again, I say it kind of tongue in cheek, but listen, ultimately, you know, where there's smoke, there's fire. And I think there's a lot of smoke coming out to this one. I really do. Madman chimes in. Good to see the corporation back in the saddle. We can talk NBA now. The Sixers are 4-0. Hey, they're fun to watch. Edgecombe look, him and Maxey, it's their squad. It's their squad, man. It's their squad. From what I understand, everyone except the Fish was in on the fix. I mean, well, that's because they're the friggin' Fish. Right? I mean, do you play cards? Do you? New phone, who dis? I watched the Cavs and Celtics game last night. It was too early and hyperbolic to say the Cavs will never win a chip. With the core players, they're just too soft. Athletic bigs, but passive. 4 games in. That's all I'm saying. 4 games in the NBA season. They kind of showed you who they were in the playoffs last year after winning what, 60-something odd games. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the Sixers are a playoff team 4 games in, but I like the pace. I mean, they can score. They scored 117 against the Celtics. They scored 120, 125 against the Magic, right? They scored what, 130-something in that crazy game against the Wizards? And you're getting production from the young guys in the bench. And, oh, by the way, I haven't even mentioned Embiid, who I think is, you know, pretty much almost close to being a shot fighter. But Edgecombe is lighting up. Maxey's lighting up. But it's 4 games in the NBA. I take, just like with the NFL, we go 7, week 8, we start to separate. The NBA, yes, I follow it religiously now, of course. But I start to really take the NBA serious right around Christmas time. You start to see what you have in some of these teams, right? The Bulls are a young team, and they're 4-0. That's a nice little start to the season. You know, OKC, the defending NBA champs, they're 5-0, and they're showing you why they're defending NBA champs. You know, San Antonio, they're fun to watch. Wembley's a beast, and they've got depth. And I like this kid Harper. Liked him coming out of college. He's a good player. He's a real nice player. this is kind of why when we were talking about where the Sixers might go, it's one of the reasons that, you know, I wasn't enamored with Ace Bailey and the way he carried himself. I know I think he had the flu. He hasn't been able to really kind of find his rhythm just yet, but Edgecombe was the pick for me. And Harper's a good player, and Edgecombe's a good player. Will the Sixers, will Silver survive this? It's a good question, Chino. It's a real good question because everything is happening on his watch. And if there were 30 something odd investigations, if there were 30 something odd investigations over the last several years that come to life and the NBA really didn't do anything about it, the best, what Adam Silver wants right now is he's more concerned, let me talk about the sale of the Lakers or, God forbid, I don't know, maybe there's a suspension or there's a fight, that takes a little bit of the light away from this. Something, maybe you get someone who scores 60, and that's a story for a couple of days. Like he's trying to defuse everything. And when he's interviewed, he really doesn't say anything that makes you believe he didn't really know anything. And the more he talks and he stammers, it's like, all right, are you nervous because he's a well-spoken guy? Or are you used car salesman? Or are you hiding something? I think that because this is so prominent, and I believe more names are going to drop, and it's such a black eye for the NBA. You realize we're not even talking about Rozier anymore. We're talking about the rigged poker games and Billups and the ties to the mafia, NBA, right? All these players. To me, you got to put pressure on him and almost push it to where, hey, man, is it possible? You resign? I don't think that's it. I don't think he will. But I've seen columnists write that he should. I've seen former players come out that he needs to step down. But like I said, there are others like Draymond Green who's defending Adam Silver. And everyone's going to sit there and say, well, you know what? He's building the league, which David Stern did, which Magic and Bird did, let's be honest, because the NBA was floundering in the late 70s, early 80s. I mean, hell, championships were on friggin' tape delay back then. Nobody gave a shit. Adam Silver came in when the league was already expanding and had the international feel. He just added a couple of ingredients to the stew. But at this moment, I have no problem with someone saying, yeah, you need to step down, man. This is just, you got too much egg on your face. It just doesn't make sense. There's too much that's not being said, if that makes sense. There's stuff still out there. Yeah, you get a Portland Trailblazer coach and Chauncey Billups, a Hall of Famer. Yeah, you get a Miami guard, Terry Rozier. Okay, fine. Everything comes down after the season tips off. Now you got some other names that are going to be floated out there. Now you had the issue with Porter last year. We've seen this before in the NBA. We've seen this. But yet, he's the one that also decided to really get heavily involved in gambling for the NBA. And as I said, if the NBA knew about this and they knew about Terry Rozier's behavior, I don't even care about his character, but if he knew a player was purposely coming out of a game or shaving points or manipulating prop bets to help, a cousin or a friend or whoever win money, and who's to say some of these instances didn't have a direct outcome of the game, then guess what? If the NBA really knew that, if Adam Silver really had knowledge of this and he did nothing about it, then yes, force him out, resign, step down, 100%. I mean, I don't believe for 1 minute he didn't know what the hell's going on in his league. I'm not comparing the two, so please don't think I am. I'm not. But I mentioned this 10 plus years ago with the whole Paterno stuff. That man knew if somebody spit on the sidewalk. Someone spit in the sidewalk in Happy Valley. He knew. Everything went through Joe Paterno. He knew. And blind eye. That's a crock. If Adam Silver is sitting there telling you, well, I didn't have any knowledge. I didn't know. And then you sit there and you know about all these investigations and they did nothing about it. He's just as culpable. He's actually worse because he knew and he could have nipped it in the bud. I mean, you're talking about probably hundreds of millions of dollars when it's all said and done that have been funneled in and out. You have no idea. And the fact that Windhurst, who, let's be honest too, I know people prefer Shams with the breaking news and all this. Windhurst cut his teeth because he was tight with LeBron early in LeBron's career. That's how he got the gig that he got. Everyone knows it. It's no secret. But there's still some credibility left to Brian Windhurst. So when he turns around and says that the sports books catch all this illegal betting and activity, which we already know because they're going to flag it, and the NBA turns around and says, okay, we found this out. We were alerted. The sportsbook alerted the league office. Sportsbook A had a conversation with the league office, Adam Silver. I'm just saying maybe this is how it went down. We got together. There's irregularities. There's suspect betting and line movement. And you decide, hold on a second, fake an injury. And guess what? Just sit the rest of the season. Folks, you can't escape that. So if this report is accurate, and I don't see why a guy like Windhorst would make it up, then that basically tells you what? The league, Adam Silver, the NBA as a whole, as an entity, tried to not only sweep it under the rug, they tried to cover it up. And you're talking about a gambling scandal that involves the mafia, and that's totally unacceptable for any professional sports league. Any professional sports league. So, yeah, I have no problem sitting there saying, if this comes to life, or Pablo Torre keeps doing his digging with his pod and his investigative journalism, and more layers are peeled back, and all of a sudden it's another player they were investigating and Silver knew about this, or another head coach or someone within the league office, who knows how far this trickles down, then yeah, I would say force his hand to resign. You can't be untouchable. You can't. You can't. And if this was going on in the NBA, now follow me for a second. If this was going on, in the NFL, and we know how much money Roger Goodell makes the league, the way that's swept under the rug, it's because he makes the league and the owners so much money. But dollars to donuts, people will want the commish gone because it's all about protecting the brand and the shield. That's what the NFL does on their high friggin' horse. If Adam Silver, pardon me, is in any way, shape, or form, if he turned a blind eye and just basically it's a massive cover up, then yeah, you got to step down. You have to. Sixers defense has to get better. Showing they can win without Embiid is a good sign. Center rotation has done well. Not even Embiid's team anymore, Jovan. They're going to rest him for the playoffs, right? In this load management crap. But yeah, they're showing they can score, right? And they're a fun team. But if they are going to be that playoff team, yeah, when you start to battle these top tiers in the Eastern Conference, can't be given up $135. Q does an investigation warrant fines and or suspension. Doesn't need actually charged to act on. So yes, there's a couple layers to this. I think what's going to happen is, look, everyone has their quote day in court, do they not? So we can sit here and say, I saw Joe, pull the gun on Larry and shot him. Well, we can have video of it. We can have 1,000 witnesses. Joe still is innocent until proven guilty. He still has his day in court. I think, though, when you talk about the mob being involved, the mafiosa, the mafia, La Costa Nostra, as the FBI guy like to say, guys like Rozier and Billups are now going to get a little bit of the benefit of the doubt in this regard. You can always spin it. Well, I got caught up and my hand was forced, if that makes sense. And I'm not saying they're going to walk, because they are directly responsible, at least Billups is, if these allegations are true with these alleged rigged games of bringing in the cattle and these guys getting slaughtered, losing millions of dollars. Now, again, day in court, good defense attorney is going to say, hey, man, my hands were tied. My client, he was being muscled because of his name, his stature within the league, and his connections. He was being muscled. And then you never know how it plays out. But you are asking someone who not only is a big conspiracy theorist, but who's always kind of lived his life where there's smoke, there's fire, and I don't put anything past people. My opinion is they knew exactly what they were doing, and that warrants more than fines and/or suspensions. It's jail time. You're getting in bed with the mob, and they got to muscle you, whether you believe you owe them or not, and you're bringing guys, fishes who have millions of dollars, and I'm rigging a game to get a competitive advantage because maybe I'm hooked. Maybe it's this fascination. Maybe it's this life I want to leave. Maybe I did get in trouble and I needed the mob to help me out. Again, you're not, who's going to get in bed with them? You can't do that. You can't. You can't do that. And then you get players, you get, now it could trickle down to simple things like equipment manager who's making $30,000 a year. I got an in. The ball boy who just turned 21, who's friends with the equipment manager, who's making $200 a game. Did you hear what Jones said? Yeah, I overheard. He said LeBron's on. That's filtering information. It's like inside trading. So it just, there's so many layers to this. And that's one of the reasons that now you have to really sit there and say, is it surprising? It's not. But as a fan, are we allowed to now sit back or take a step back as a fan and say, well, the integrity of the game should be under a microscope? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It has to be. And it's just, listen, ESPN wants to steer so clear away from this. It's a joke, their coverage. It's a joke. If it was something else, hell, Duke lacrosse, 24/7. 24/7. Kaepernick, 24/7. 24/7. But for some reason, well, we know the reason, they're staying so far away from this. So far away from this. They don't want to touch it because they're in bed with the NBA. We all know it. They're in bed with the NBA. Okay, fine, right? Then you get the comments. Here's the other thing. When you're starting to talk about load management. Now, again, if the player's not playing, it does influence the line. So that is an issue, period. So now it's something else that the commissioner has to deal with because now, all right, Embiid's sitting on back-to-backs. Yeah, he said it in August, September, but now it's so pronounced. He's sitting out 3, 4, 5 straight games. The line's going to fluctuate. Maxi's sitting out. Wembley's sitting out. Whatever. I'm just throwing names out there. It's what this has done now. It's taken the NBA and it's stuck the NBA under a microscope. And now it's going to be uberly scrutinized. When you talk about U.S. sports books taking $150 billion worth of bets, that's a legit number. $150 billion worth of bets. And you're basically looking at $13 billion in revenue. Now, you got to break that down and tell me the percentage involving player props. And let's just say for the novice bettor, we've all been there. You guys throw 100, 200 in the account and you're playing $3, $4, $5 a player prop. You times that by 10 of your friends, 10 of their friends, 10 of their friends, and keep going and going and going and going and going. I mean, it adds up, man. It adds up. So, it's a long-winded answer, but this is a major problem. How bad do you think this NBA gambling? It's bad. It's bad. And I'm starting to really, when I keep going back and I look at some of these documents and then I go back to the Donaghy thing and then I go and look at the Porter thing. Again, this happened last year, did it not? And he's banned for life. Now, a guy like Rozier made a lot of money. Why are you risking it? Well, it's just foolishness, stupidity. You're going to get caught. But now you got a 25-year-old in Jonte Porter who got caught with his hand in the cookie jar. And that kid is basically banned for life. And the same thing happened. You had instances of betting irregularities, and this was stretched over several months. Stretched over several months. And if you recall, didn't the NBA look into Rozier last year? Now, Porter actually bet that his team would lose the game. And if you're given confidential information about players' health, then yeah. I mean, the average Joe is going to take that information and use it to their advantage. I mean, that's one of the reasons I brought up Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson on the injury report. It's not much to do about nothing because it does feed into the gambling community, the gambling public, the sports books, the bettors, the guys that set the odds, the sharps, right? Everything goes hand in hand, man. Everything goes hand in hand. And I think, again, when you look at the situation with Porter, that was one of the largest payouts of the night. And that's pretty much what happened. That's when we knew that, all right, this is not on the level right now. It's not on the level right now. And that's why I mentioned the other day, Tim Donaghy, he was pretty accurate to some extent to what he said regarding the NBA going forward and betting, right? I see the interview Maxey and Edgecombe did last night with Shaq and the gang. They were asked about Embiid. Maxey's clearly over Joel. Edgecombe gave company speak, but Maxey had no comment because they know that it's not Joel Embiid's team anymore. I've said that for years now. It's not. Joel Embiid is an afterthought. He's an afterthought. He is a flat out afterthought. I don't want to hear any more of this if healthy. You knew what you were getting when you drafted him. You knew what you were getting after you gave him a monster contract, which, oh, by the way, I objected because we all know Embiid is not going to give you 65, 70 games. And I don't want to hear this. He just needs to be healthy for the playoffs. Yes, I said it before with Jovan's comment, but that's only because now you don't need to rely on Embiid. Embiid was the Sixers for close to a decade. And every time you try to force feed him a player, it never worked out. The Sixers dropped the ball when they tried so damn hard to appease Joel Embiid. And I'm not the biggest fan of Morey. I'm not going to sit there and tell you he's a great GM, he's a good GM, he's a bad GM. I'm not. But in the NBA, it's a players' league. And when you go out of your way to force feed players on another player and you try to say, make it work, more times than not, Ben Simmons was a dog. Harden, it didn't mesh. Paul George, it's not meshing. Maxey is the face of the Philadelphia 76ers. It's not even debatable. He is the franchise face. He is the face of the franchise right now. And to your point, I wouldn't even worry about a player that's not going to be available either. Why should I even worry about it? Yeah, when you're on the floor, I'm going to try to get you involved. But that's if or when you're on the floor. Like, stop placating these guys. Stop. The fact that Embiid came out and said, the back-to-back's load management. He's a dog. He's a dog. The 30 for 30, the epithet on Embiid could have been, what if? Because you can be a dominating player, but you never kept yourself in shape. You had all these injuries. You were never engaged. You were a front runner. So yeah, you get him for 50-something games, and then you're a 6-7 seed in the playoffs, and he's a little rested. That's great. But there's no expectations here with this guy. He's not scoring 25, 28 a night. A couple years ago, what was it, 33, 34? Great player. Gave him 60-something, 70 games. But he's not that guy anymore. He's not. Their window is shut. Their window's shut. It's not opening. It's just not. It's not. They're not going through the Eastern Conference. I don't care if they're 4-0, they go 11-0, 12-0. They're not a championship team. And the expectation, I think the Sixers knew coming into the season was try to get something out of Embiid and see the development of Maxey and some of these rookies in Edgecombe. And thus far, they're 4-0. They run up and down the floor. They can score. Got to work on the defense, obviously. And they're getting some production off the bench, which is always a good thing. They're a little more judicious with the basketball, right? I mean, we talked about this for how many years with the Philadelphia 76ers? You're turning the ball over 20, 22, 23 times a game. They're not doing it. They had 13 turnovers the other night. In a game that went in overtime, they scored 139 points. But they're getting production from the bench, which is a good thing. They got some depth. But yeah, the days of Embiid being the face of the franchise are just clearly done. All right, you got Thursday night football tonight. Got to start wrapping it up. Ravens and the Dolphins. That is a high nut right there. 7.5. I do like Baltimore on the road, believe it or not, even in a backup situation. The Dolphins, to me, I know they got the win last week over a fraud Atlanta team. I'm just not feeling it. Tua's going to revert back to his fish tendencies. I'm going to, you're looking for a couple picks from Tua tonight. World Series, I wanted to go 7. Maybe tomorrow we'll talk a little more about Ohtani. But you got game 6 tomorrow. How about Magic Johnson saying, hey, the winner of game 5 is going to have control of the series? Thanks, Magic. So you got Toronto leading that series 3-2. We got a lot of NFL to get into tomorrow. 2-hour show. What the Freak Football Friday edition of On Cue. Lloyd Vance, John Bueller. We're going to see if we can track down James Hasty. I know he's been traveling. We want to get him on board. We'll rip through all the games. We'll go through all the lines. I'll give you some playoff props. And if you want to get a little bit of insight now and get your prep for Thursday night, newest edition of Back Your Play is out. That's on the audio version will be downloaded in about 10 minutes on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. It's up and running on the YouTube channel at Rich Q on Q. Excellent stuff with the comments. You guys are fantastic. Keeping it locked in on a Thursday. As always, we're powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. Get ready with tea. 3 Brooks Bourbon and the Jersey Shore Breaks. How about this? Q, any advice on a high school team trying to bring home a county title for the first time in school history? You know what? This needs. I was going to do this tomorrow because remember the corporation, Michael, who is a high school soccer coach. Congratulations, his squad hasn't been somewhere in school history. You're talking 40 something odd years of getting this team into the playoffs. So I want to get the details right. So, Miguel, Michael, give us the details on this high school squad. And yes, I will kind of give you a little coach speak before we get out of here. We're going to give you the shout out tomorrow on a Friday. But since you got to kind of get, amped up, ready to go, we got to get the details on this. What is this? 48 years this program has been going. Wow. 48 years, and now you are on the precipice of a county title. I would just say, just when you haven't been there before, you either play very loose, or if you're reminded you haven't been there before, you might tense up. You might squeeze a little, right? A little pressure. Friday at 5. I'll give you more words of encouragement on Friday at 5, but you won't be able to tune in. You got to be locked in and focused. So I would say have the girls go out, play loose, have fun, do what you've been doing all season long, coach them up. I think at this point, nothing more needs to be said. You should already be proud of this team, right? Which I'm sure you are. You're talking 48 something years, school program, first time in history on the cusp, right, of a county title. Have them go out and just have fun. Have fun. I think when you have people remind you constantly, that's when it starts getting in your head. And a lot of times with high school athletes, they're young. They're not overanalyzing it, overthinking it. And I'll tell you what, we're on cue is sending you all the best. We're sending you the good juju to get the job done, to bring home the title. And I think if you win, you should post a ton of videos nonstop. That's what I think. Also, photos, videos, yes. But wishing you the best of luck. That's a 5 o'clock Friday. Let us know who you play. And I don't know, is that game going to be streamed anywhere? I know SFBN, Sports Fan Base Network in Jersey, they stream. But let us know. We'll have to check it out. Yes, have fun and enjoy it. That's it. What did Gene Hackman say when he was giving the speech in Hoosiers? This was before they played in the title game. He said, listen, I don't care what the scoreboard says. I don't care about the crowd. I don't care about the accolades. I don't care about what the papers are writing afterwards. In my book, you're already winners. That's how you have to get it done. But no, the best of luck. That's awesome, man. That's that's crazy. That's something special. Like to get to a championship or have a high school or a team never been there before. Back in the day, you're winning the tournaments and that's all fun. But to be that close to a county title and a championship, yes, just have fun. That's it. Have fun. Already proud of you guys. Have fun, and ultimately try to score more than the opposition. So that's the only advice I can give you. So, all right, 5 o'clock, straight up, back in the saddle tomorrow on a Friday. Good stuff with the comments. Always appreciate you guys keeping us locked in. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also check out Fresh Roasted Coffee, BYP20. That's your promo code. Get ready with tea. Jersey Shore Breaks starting their second season in March. And 3 Brooks Bourbon. Not to mention, if you want some used soccer equipment, don't forget, Played Against Sports, 1450 Clements Ridge Road in Deptford, New Jersey, and their second location in Mount Laurel. All right, busy Friday show. Don't forget, we're on demand. You can check us out every Saturday and Sunday, 11 to 12, WWON TV 48 in New York with Back Your Play. Until then, we will talk to you on a Football Friday edition of On Cue. Everyone have a good sports Thursday. As I mentioned, NBA tonight, Thursday Night Football, World Series tomorrow, and a lot of NFL. We will go heavy for 2 hours. As always, be safe, be sound. Hasta luego, buen día.